also seems to be very very not very good for the trees and for animals. I noticed that as well. You know, the more efficient you make things, the less alive and vibrant it is. So I was looking at what can we do different, and there's a series of books that I came across a while before it broke up, which is called The Ringing Cedars of Russia, and there they present this beautiful idea of a space of love, which is an area about a hectare, maybe 2 hectares around a person where they've grown up in, preferably, where they have a loving connection to everything that lives there. And everything there nourishes the person who belongs there, whose home it is. And the person in turn gives their love, which, the interesting thing is they say, so people are the only species that can give love in that way, outside of family bonds. And I think some people might say, it's not true. If I look at my dog or my horse or whatever, they do give that love. And then I would say, well, that is because you are forming this special bond with them. And they can only do it through our reaching out to them in a way, I think. But I'm not entirely sure because I'm not much of an animal person, to be honest. But, it's not that they don't have that love, but they don't give it unless we reach out to them first, I think. Something like that. Anyway, so this space of love, and the directions for that were like you have a whole beautiful plot of land, and in that you have about half to 2/3 of it filled with trees, and then you have a beautiful pond, and you build a home there, although in the future you might not need the home because you'll just be happier sleeping out in the open, which I thought, nope, not here in England, you don't. I like my home. But, maybe in Russia it doesn't get so damp. And so that, and then a meadow with plants where you can grow herbs and some food stuff. And so then every garden would be in a whole community with at least another 100 other gardens, because then you can support each other. That was the idea. So from that, I was like, okay, well, I like a lot about the idea, but maybe we have to look a bit more. Okay, so how are we going to make this work so you can actually make a living of it, so you can actually create it also as a place where you really grow a lot of food, because she was talking a lot about eating pine nuts and stuff. Well, if you look at the UK, not a lot of pine trees that produce the nice nuts are very comfortable here. You can plant some, but you have a lot of other nut stuff that you can eat, and a lot of leaves and a lot of fruits. So anyway, plants, the trees, made me come to permaculture, which is a way of looking at how things are in nature, how things are cooperating, in ecosystems where different things support each other. So that if you look at that and then take it into a farm setting and see how different aspects can support each other, rather than having your chickens separate from your orchard, for example, you integrate that, which we did do in the orchards that we have at Stein's. But you can go so much further, because you can also have, like in the orchard, Stein wants to keep the ground under the trees bare, because then weeds won't grow and overgrow the trees. And yeah, and also so that they don't get nutrients from the tree that the trees would like to have, and stuff like that. But every time you open up the soil, you lose nutrients as well, and you lose moisture, and it's not good for little insects and stuff that lives in the soil. So although Stein he does have, mulch on it and stuff, but not that much, but he does, and he does his best, and I see that for him that's just the best option. I also think that I know I've learned from permaculture and all the research I've done that you can work with lower growing plants that cover the soil, keep the moisture in, don't use that much of the nutrients because their roots don't go anywhere near as deep as the trees. And then you can have things like clovers, which maybe anyone who has a bit of experience with on a more bigger scale growing things knows, maybe, hopefully, that they have this special relationship with some bacteria in the ground to get nitrogen from the air into their root system. And some of that is shared with plants next to them, especially if you mow them off or, So like that, you also have shrubs that do that, and some other bigger plants like lupins and lucerne and some other interesting plants that I looked up. So if you have a group of trees and you put shrubs between that give some nutrients and then some lower plants, and you just make it into a network where they all help each other out. You get weed suppressing plants, you get plants that are food plants for insects, beneficial insects then, and with all that you create your little ecosystem where things are supporting each other. Like I said, instead of having to fight the effects of efficient work, basically, you're making it so that you don't have to put so much energy into it because it's already helping itself. So that I really love, and that's I've been looking at also instead of having annual plants, having more and more perennials. There's this amazing book called Plants for Future, and it has this whole compendium of different plants that you might grow in our climate, in British climate, that, all sorts of food plants. And some of them are a bit like, well, it's only tiny bit of food, and more like, that's cool. And then he says, with breeding, we can maybe make it better. But anyway, I think I would really love to use more and more perennials, because you don't have to keep pulling the soil up, opening it up, and which, like I said,